Hello and welcome back. Today we will continue with the GraphQL series. Within this lesson I will create sales guest order page where we can fetch the guest order information with the GraphQL queries. For this I will use the guest order GraphQL queries, and I will present you here the usage of the GraphQL queries within the Hyvä team. So we will use also the GraphQL queries view model from the Hyvä team, and we will create the form with the Alpine.js directive, and also we will create the component where we will fetch these GraphQL queries. And if we are adding the correct information into the form, like order number, guest email address and the postcode, we will receive the order information like order status, order date and the ordered items list with the product SKU. And also in the end of the lesson I will style the page with the usage of the Tailwind CSS. If you would like to know more about the Hyvä team and Magento and coding topics, please don't forget to subscribe into my new YouTube channel. Thank you so much. So have fun and let's get started. Before we continue, I would like to highly recommend my best-selling Udemy course on the Hyvä team. This course offers extensive lessons including the practical usage of GraphQL queries with the Hyvä team. You will also find the complete source code related to this lesson there. Check the description below for more details. And now, if you are using the coupon code NEWYEAR, you will receive a significant discount for the next 5 days. Don't miss out. So I already prepared the page, and you can find this on the Hyvä Hero Order Status page. And on this page we will create the form where you can add the information like guest email address, postcode and the order ID, and based on this information we will fetch the order data. So let's get started. First of all, I would like to present you the guest order GraphQL queries, and you can find this on the official developer Adobe Documentation. And for this you can find the guest order GraphQL queries, and for this you can find the input like the order number, the email and the postcode. So we will add this information to the form, and based on this information we will receive the order status, the order date, the order number, also the token, and the first and the last name for this order, and the ordered items SKU list. And for the GraphQL queries, I already downloaded the GraphQL Playground, and with these tools you can add different GraphQL queries and test this on your local shop. And I already added my guest order example queries into this window. So on the left side you will see the GraphQL queries, but I'm copy pasted from the guest order Adobe official documentation page, and you will get the response that we couldn't locate an order with this order information provided because this is not a valid order number and the email and the postcode. So we will add here the correct order number, email and postcode, and after that we will get the order information. First of all, you can also add here the Magento test /GraphQL, and this is the URL endpoint for this GraphQL queries, and based on this URL you can fetch different information with the GraphQL. So I already created the test order with this email address, and also the order number is 3 at the end of the number, and the postcode is 12345. So if I'm adding this to the GraphQL query, then you will see that we are receiving the information for this order. So this is the pending status and the order date, and also here is the order number and the token and the first and last name, and the product SKU, what I ordered previously. So we will also get this information on our custom route page. But here we can add the form where you can add this information to the queries, and after that, if you hit the button, that you will get the order information. So I already prepared the page. So I added here the different variables and also the use cases for the escaper, the template and the view model registry. And first of all, I will add here the PHP tag, and between this PHP tag I will add a GraphQL query view model. So I already added here the Hyvä GraphQL view model and GraphQL view model. And if you're adding this, then you can use the query function where you can paste your GraphQL queries. So I will add first the script tag with the strict mode. So I created the init order component. And I will also add here the section with the xdata where we are initializing the init order component. So first of all, I will create the variables like is loading and set to false, because here we will also use loading animation. So if you are adding the data, then the fetch request needed some time for loading, and based on this flag we will add the animation. And also we will create the order data and set this to null as a default. And if we are getting the order data with these GraphQL queries, then we are prefilling this order data. And also we will create the error message variable and set this to null. And for the input, we will create the order number, email and postcode, because the customer can add this to the form, and based on this information we will receive the order data. So we have the order number and the email and the postcode. So now we have the variables created, and then let's create the fetch order function within this component where we can add the GuestOrder query with the dynamically added order number, email and postcode. So here we can set the isLoading back to true, because if we are fetching the information, then the isLoading is set back to true, because the queries is not loading anymore and we have the information. Also here we are adding the this error message to null, and also the this order data to null. So and now let's create the GraphQL queries. So I already prepared the queries here, so I will copy paste this here. And I will explain this to you. So the query identifier is the name for this GraphQL queries. So I'm using here the fetch guest order, but you can here also use another different name, so it's up to you. And here for the queries I'm using the same guest order queries here. So the only difference that for the number, email and the postcode I will add the variable dynamically here. So based on this added information in this form, and if we are adding this information, then we are receiving the order status, the order date, and the number, and the billing address with the first name and last name, and the ordered items list with the product SKUs. So we are created the GraphQL queries and added to the view model query function. So now let's create some other variables. And this will be the order number. So here we are adding this input order number. And for the email we are adding this input email. And for the postcode we are adding this input postcode. And we will use these variables within our form. If we are adding the information into this form, then we are passing this back to this input order number here, and for this input email here, and also this input postcode for here. And this will be dynamically fetched from this form. So let's create the GraphQL endpoints, but we are already added here. And for this, let's use the base URL. So the base URL is the Magento test, and then we can extend this with the GraphQL. And then let's create the fetch request. So here we are using the fetch function, adding the endpoint with the Magento test / GraphQL. And within this fetch, then we are creating the method post and the headers, and this will be content type application /JSON. And also let's create the body, and this will be the JSON stringify, and then add the query and the variables within this stringify. So here we are adding the query, what we are already using here. And for the variables, we are adding here the dynamically added order number, email, and postcode. And now if we are already created the fetch function with the methods header and the body, then let's create the end function for this with the then. So if we are getting the response, then let's add the response JSON. And one dev for the result. And if we are getting the result, like the order status data, the order number and the first and last name and the order items list with the product SKU, then we are adding this back to the order data. We can also check this with the result data, with the console log later. And let's create also the catch case. So if we are getting some errors, then we will also fetch this error information, and we can also add this to the console error. And if this fetch request is finished, then we have the final case where we can set back the isLoading flag to true. If this fetch request is fully finished, then we have the final case where you can set back the isLoading flag to false. So the fetch request is not loading anymore and we are received the data. So let's add here some information dynamically. And then let's check the console log. If we are adding this information here, first as a hard-coded, then we can check the console log output. So for the order number, I will place this here quickly. And this is the email. And this is the postcode. So we are added this hardcoded information here. So let's create also quickly the xInit, where we are adding the fetch order function. And if you are adding this here and calling the fetch order with the hard-coded information, then you will receive the information on the console output with the billing address, first name, last name, the ordered items, and the order number, order date, and the order status like pending. And we will add this information also to the front end. So I will remove this hard-coded information, and let's continue with the form where you can add this information. and after that let's create the button, and if you are clicking to this button, then you will call this GraphQL queries and you will receive the information. So let's continue with the creation of the form. So I will add the headline here with the escaper. Guest order status. And after the h1 tag, we are adding the input form. And the first input will be the order number. If you would like to fetch the input from this input field, then you can use the Alpine.js xModel directive. And if you are using the xModel directive, then your typed input will be fetched and added to the variables within the Alpine.js, and based on this information you can create the queries. So for this, let's type xModel and then add the input order number. So that means you are typing here something, then this will be added and fetched into the input order number variable, and this will be added directly to the variables here, and this will be fetched within these GraphQL queries. Let's also create the next input for the email. So actually we can copy paste this here and change the placeholder to email address, and this will be the input email. And we need the third one for the postcode. And this will be added to the input postcode. And also let's create the button where you can add the fetch order function. So if you are clicking to the button, then the queries will be added with this information, and then we will return the order information. So with the click directive you can add the function fetch order, and between this button we can add dynamically also text. Initial text will be that, for example, show order information, and if we are clicking to the button, then we can show the loading text so that the queries is fetched and it's loaded. And for this we can show the show Alpine.js directive, and based on the isLoading flag, so if it's not loaded, so as a default, then we can add the show order information text to the button. And if it's loading, then we can add the loading text. So now we have created the form, first without Tailwind styling, where we can add the order number, order email and the postcode. And then if you are clicking to the button, then you will see that we have the show order information text as a default, but if you are clicking there, then we have the loading text, and after that we will receive the guest order information. So previously, within this template, I already added the UI loading PHTML. So this is default added by the Hyvä team, and this is also the providing fancy loading animation, and we can also use this here. So if you are fetching the information, then we are showing this loading indicator, and if it's fully fetched, then we are not showing this anymore. And for this you can add your block within your template, and within your template you can use the getChart.html with the loading ID, and you can add this on the correct place. So we will add this here, and if your fetching request is loading, then we are also using and showing this loading indicator from the Hyvä team. So I will also add here the information that this is related for the loading indicator. And for this we will use the isLoading flag. So I added the isLoading flag. So if it's true, then we are showing this fancy loading indicator from the Hyvä team. But you can see this better if we have already the GraphQL queries running, because it takes some time, and then you will see later this fancy loading animation. And here we can also add additionally the text. With the escaper, fetching order information. So now let's create the order data div, where we can show the order information after the GraphQL query is fully finished and the information is fetched. And additionally, we can also add here the error message directly added to the customer. So for this I will also add here the extra div. And here we can use the xShow Alpine.js directive. And we can add here the error message, if the error message is true and set. So let's create the order information div, where we are showing the order data. And here we can use the template directive and check with the if we have the order data, then we are showing this. And let's add the paragraph with a strong tag. And first this will be the status. And between this, let's create a new span element with the X text, order data, and this will be the status. So let's try this quickly if it's working fine. So let's copy paste here the order number, the email address, and the postcode. So you will see that we are receiving the information here, and also here the order status pending is also visible. So let's continue this and later fix this visibility. So second, we need the order date. And the order number. And the billing name. And here for the X text we can use the first name and last name together. Let's add the space and then order data, billing address, last name. And also let's create the extra div for the ordered items list. And this will be the items. And here let's create the list item, and for this you can use the x4 directive where you can loop through to the ordered items and you can add to the list. For this you can use the x4 item in order data items, where the key is the product SKU from the item. And here within this list item, you can simply showing this product SKU with the X text. So let's check this quickly here. So we are not receiving information because we are not added the order number, email address and postcode. But let's check this once again. We have some information with the guest order. So I already moved the template if order data here. So this is not in the isLoading div directly, because here we need only the order data information. So if we are getting this information, then we are showing this div. So let's check this once again. And as you can see here, we have the order data with the status pending, the order date, the order number, the building name, and also the ordered items with the product SKU. So the guest order GraphQL queries is working fine, and we are also implemented the email, the order number and the postcode dynamically, and we are fetching this with the xModel Alpine.js directive and adding this to the query. And if we are receiving the information, then we are showing this to the customer. So now let's continue with some Tailwind CSS style. So let's add some style to the h1 tag for the guest order status text. And also let's style to the input field. So with full width. And also adding some border and rounded, some padding and some margin. And let's add the same style for the email address and also the postcode. So it looks better. And then let's tie the button. Adding some background. Rounded border. And also adding here some nice hover animation. with a different background. So now we are styled the different input fields and also the button and the headline. So let's add some style to the div where we are showing the order information. Before that, let's also add some style to the error message. And now let's start the div where we are receiving the order information. Also adding some style to the h2 tag where we have the text order details. And here we have this style with the strong tag with the text and also the normal span element. So this is fine. And let's also start the items text. With some text size, style, and also we are setting this to semi-bold and some margin. So now we are also finished the style for the guest order status page. So we are styled the input field and the different headline. And now if we are adding the information to the form, and clicking to show order information, then you will see that the text is also changed here. And we have this nice loading indicator from the Hyvä team, and this is managed with this isLoading flag. And after that we are receiving this information with the order status. So you can see this is pending, the order date, the order number and the billing name combined with the first name and last name, and the items ordered list with the product SKU. So this was the next presentation about the GraphQL queries, where we are used the guest order GraphQL queries within the Hyvä team. So we are created the guest order status page where the user can add the order number, the ordered email, so the guest email address and the postcode, and if you are adding the correct information, then you will receive the order details. So I already created the order previously and I used here the information, and I got the information from the order. And if you would like to know more about the GraphQL queries, I would like to suggest you the official Adobe documentation from the developer adobe.com, where you can find also different another GraphQL queries. And if you would like to play with this, I would like to recommend you the GraphQL Playground for Chrome. Here you can add on the left side your queries, and after adding the correct URL with the /GraphQL at the end, then you can receive the information. And also you can here add different queries, for example creating customer and so on. So this is also possible, and so you can play with this a little bit. So I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. Have fun and see you in the next time.